I just feel like the wind was knocked out of my sails. I feel really emotional, and I feel like I don't want to get out of bed.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the third video in my IVF cycle number 1 series. I did have a video on my prep month. I had a video on my baseline appointment. Right now it is Stims day 6. It's Wednesday. I started injections on Friday, and I did have my first appointment yesterday. Going into yesterday's appointment, I had 4 nights of stim injections. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night were pretty uneventful. Monday night, night 4, I think I have a little clip. I'm about to take my 4th night of injections, and today was the first day that I've been feeling some stabbing pains down there. I'm pretty tired right now, but I think that's just because it's been a long day and not because of the medications. I don't feel bloated yet, but like I said, I have had those kind of stabbing pains in my ovaries, so I'm hoping that that means that something is happening down there and that it's working. So I will update you guys on how everything's growing and what my estrogen level is tomorrow after that appointment. I'm so excited. Yeah, feeling good so far. And then I woke up on day 5 of injections, which was Tuesday, and that was the day of my first check. I felt pretty tired and sick in the morning. I felt like on my right side, I was having some like sharp, like needle prick pains. And I also just felt really, really tired. But I was also very excited to go to my appointment. Like I was on cloud 9. I was gonna like see my follicles and see if anything's growing. And it wasn't a great appointment, and I came home and I think I filmed a little clip.
I was feeling really good the last 4 days and even this morning, and I just feel like the wind was knocked out of my sails. I feel really emotional, and I feel like I don't want to get out of bed. I'm waiting for my nurse to call me. She is going to tell me if I need to change my medication doses or, you know, what the game plan is going to be.
I've been so hopeful going into this process. I just couldn't deal with it yesterday. Like I just felt horrible the whole day. Mentally, physically, wasn't feeling great, but I got a ton of sleep and now I feel fine. So at my baseline appointment, my antral follicle count was 9, 6 on my left, 3 on my right. What they like to see on day 5 at your check is they would like to see that a good number of your antral follicles have started growing and they are between 8 and 10 millimeters. Some can be a little bigger, some can be a little smaller, but that's kind of like a good step. That the medication is doing the right thing, that your follicles are responding. And my follicles, some of them responded, but it's kind of this weird in between that means that I have no idea where the cycle is going. It might get canceled, it might be fine. So the results that I was given is that on my left side where I had 6, I now have 9, which is amazing, right? Because that means that the medication is even recruiting more follicles than I had to start with. That's great news, but all 9 of them are still considered microfollicles, meaning they're under 6 millimeters. So they are still considered unmeasurable. There's no way that there can be a mature egg inside a follicle that's under 6 millimeters. On my right side, where I had 3 antral follicles, now I have 4. So again, 1 was recruited. 2 of them are still micro. 2 of the follicles over there are very big, much bigger than they should be after 4 days of stims. So 1 is at a 14 and 1 is at a 12.5. So I have a 14, a 12.5, and 11 micros. There's a very particular range that your follicles have to fall inside in order to have the best chance of having a mature egg inside. And this number, this range varies a little bit clinic to clinic, but from what I've seen online, it's roughly 14 millimeters to 24 millimeters. And so you want as many of your follicles as possible to be in that 14 to 24 range. And because I have 1 that's already at 14 and 1 that's right there, and then 11 that haven't even started, it means that it's likely that the 11 either aren't gonna go, which the hope is they will, they'll start growing, But if they start growing as a group, that's great, because 11 is a great number. But those two big ones, if they keep growing at the same rate, they're actually going to be too big. And so your eggs can be over mature and therefore not have an egg that's okay to fertilize. Like it starts disintegrating and like being absorbed back into your body. There's a couple of things that could happen at this point. Scenario A is that I go back in tomorrow. They did move my appointment up from Friday to Thursday, so I'm going in tomorrow. And if those two big ones have continued to get big, if they're at an 18 or a 20 and the little ones are still micro, then the cycle will need to be canceled. And it's possible that we could convert it to an IUI cycle because those follicles are on my right side, which is the side that has a tube. And I never ovulate over there. That's why it's so weird. Like knowing that I had 6 follicles on my left and 3 on my right, I was like, that's about right, because my right side's my slacker side, which is one reason why it sucks that that's the side that has the tube and that my good tube is gone. But those big follicles are on my right side. So we could convert to an IUI cycle. And if it didn't work, then try IVF again. The second scenario would be that the two big ones start slowing down a little bit and the little ones start growing and they kind of catch up and they can get in that range where the two big ones are closer to 24 and all the little ones are in like the 14 to 16 range. And that would be ideal. I mean, if we could trigger with 13 follicles, like that would be really good for me, for my numbers. I know some women get like 50 follicles, but for my numbers, 13 is a lot more than we expected. And, you know, we started with 9 possibilities at the antral follicle count. So we would be really happy with that. That would be like the dream scenario. Scenario C is that the big ones keep growing at a really fast pace and the little ones start growing. And what that would mean is there is a possibility that we will need to choose to sacrifice the two big ones in order to let the little ones get into the right range before triggering. So that would be a scenario where the little ones get up into the right range, but the big ones are too big. They're like at 30, and we go into the retrieval knowing that those ones are very unlikely to have an egg in it that will fertilize. I never knew that your follicles get over mature at that size at over a 24, and all 4 of my monitored Clomid cycles, my eggs were like over that point by the time I ovulated. Like one of them was like 33 millimeters. And all those cycles, like I thought I had such a good chance to get pregnant, and it's very likely that my eggs were all over mature by the time my body ovulated them, and I wasn't using a trigger shot. And so that's one of those things that I just didn't know, and it annoys me because I've done so much research and I've never seen that as a thing. I knew that they had to be a certain size, but I didn't know that they could be too big. And that too big was actually like not even that big. Like for me, a 33 millimeter follicle was normal in my monitored cycles, and 24 is actually kind of small as the cutoff for like what's questionable, anything above it. Obviously there are cases where you can go into a retrieval and you can get a mature egg that is healthy and fertilizes from something above a 24, but this is the range that they say, okay, if you have a cohort of eggs that are of follicles, you know, of 10 or something that are in this range of 14 to 24, you have a good chance for this cycle. So what they did is they decided to up my gonal F from 225 to 300 a night starting yesterday. So I started that last night. And then continue my micro HCG every other day. And then also add in citrotide, which is a medication that will prevent my body from ovulating those two big ones. So in a couple of days when those two big ones get even bigger, if my body's like, you know, it's time to let these ones go out and get fertilized and turn into a baby, this will keep them in there growing so that the little ones have a chance to grow. Last night ended up being a really weird night because they wanted me to go ahead and start citrotide last night, and then starting today, it's a morning injection. They wanted to go ahead and give me a boost last night because they like to start it the day that they first see a follicle over 14 millimeters, and I had one at 14 millimeters, so they were like, okay, you need to go ahead and get this in your system. Tonight's injections is probably going to be the most intense in terms of amount. I'm going to have 4 injections tonight. The reason that happened is because it happens to be the night where my gonal F pin is almost out, which means I'm gonna have to use some of the other pin, which means that is going to be 2 different sticks instead of just 1.
Then I also have the Novarel, which is only every other night, but it happens to be falling on tonight. And it's the first day that I'm adding in Citrotide.
I was really bummed out yesterday. I cried. I laid in bed and then on the sofa for the rest of the evening. I felt like crap physically. I felt super bloated. I felt heavy down there. It's almost like everything feels like tight in my like lower stomach area and nervous. Like there's nervous energy. That's the best thing I can describe it. I don't know. It's a really weird feeling. It also, I can kind of feel it in my lower back, and I looked that up, and that's very common because as your ovaries and eggs start growing, you know, there's less room for what they normally have, and because they're kind of in the back, they can actually press on your lower back. Like you can feel it back there. So I wouldn't say that it's painful at all yet, but I'm very aware of it. It's like an uncomfortable feeling. And paired with my emotional state yesterday, it just wasn't a good day. But I woke up this morning and I'm feeling good again because I've thought it through. I've talked to my mom, I've talked to Alex, and we've kind of made a game plan that if the cycle gets canceled and we are given the option to convert it to an IUI, I think we're going to do that. My thoughts and ideas on that could change, but it's hard for us to kind of start thinking about IUI again because we had shut the door on that based on the fact that we had had an ectopic pregnancy that did not have any sort of risk factors. It was very random. I lost a tube, and before that I had a chromosomal abnormality, which was with an IUI that ended up in a pretty devastating loss. And so the idea of risking that again, of choosing a path that could very likely end in loss, which is much scarier in my opinion than it not working at all, because if it didn't work at all, at least you would feel like you had given those follicles a chance and you can move on with another IVF cycle. But if it worked, I would be scared. And I mean, if it worked though, like that would be our baby. Oh my gosh, I can't even think about that. If this cycle got converted to an IUI and it ended up being oh my gosh. This is just a really emotional process. I think that not giving the follicles a chance, you know, what if these two follicles are growing so fast and so strong because one of them's meant to be our next baby and they're not given a chance because the cycle gets canceled because there aren't enough other ones. But what if those are the ones? Oh my gosh. And so anyway, I think as of now, Alex and I will give IUI a chance if that's given to us as an option, if it gets canceled. I would rather it not get canceled. I would rather the little ones start growing and, you know, all of these follicles can have chances. And yeah, there's a long way to go still. So, ow, just twisted my finger. Next steps is I do have an appointment tomorrow morning at 8:45 in the morning. It did get moved up from Friday, so I'm going in Thursday instead. I'm taking another 300 of Gonalef tonight, and I took a Citrotide this morning and last night. So I'm doing that in the mornings, and they said that they felt like we would have a better idea of where the cycle is going. We might not know for sure yet, but we'll have a better idea tomorrow. And the reason he upped my medication is because he's hoping that those little ones will start growing. So yeah, I will update you guys tomorrow. I do think that the wind was knocked out of my sails a little bit yesterday, and I think my feelings of like, this is going to be a great cycle is kind of up in the air now. And that's actually maybe a good thing. I think it kind of brought me back to earth a little bit. And I think I'm going to be less disappointed going into tomorrow than if I hadn't had any sort of bad news and everything was just smooth sailing, you know? And I think because I've kind of wrapped my head around like, okay, this might turn into IUI and you might risk miscarriage again. But here's the thing is IVF it's not a free pass miscarriage. You can have miscarriage. You can have ectopic pregnancies with IVF. I didn't know that. I did not know that, well, before learning about all of this, that you could put an embryo in your uterus and it can get sucked up into your tube. You can have ectopic pregnancy with IVF and you can have miscarriages. Even if the embryos are tested PGS normal, you can miscarry them. So that is why I'm like, we need to try IUI if that's what it comes down to. But having said that, I'm in the middle of IVF and I really would like for it to just go as planned. Okay, so this update was long. I will update you guys tomorrow after my appointment, and I hope to have better news. But either way, I hope I hope that I have at least a better sense of where the cycle is going, because I just feel like it's very, like, I have no clue if it's going to be canceled, if IUI is on the table, if I have no clue what's going to happen with this cycle. So for a type A organized control freak, that's kind of hard, but we'll get through it. So talk to you guys later.